She's firing up. Let's see. All right, looks like our live stream is up and running. Let me change a couple things in the settings and we'll be good to go. I am going to be also monitoring the chat throughout this, and I'll throw that out to the audience periodically that I'm monitoring that. And if folks have questions or want to throw something in there during the episode, they're welcome to.
Works for me. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've been enjoying whenever we get these live shows. Not that we have millions of people flooding in to listen, but it's kind of a cool thing we're able to do. So it's always fun. Last thing. There we go. All right, fellas. You boys ready?
Send it.
Ready to go?
All righty. We'll kick it off here and get this thing going. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm hosting you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Got a couple of Colorado residents joining me for this one. Our team member here at Fall Obsession, John Kesler, he's back on the show. And then our special guest this week is Josh Wamboldt. Welcome to Fall Obsession podcast, man. I'm excited to have you.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I'm stoked about this one. John kind of reached out to me and gave me a little bit of an idea on who you are and pitched the idea of having you on the show and everything. But for our listeners, for those who are joining us here tonight on the live stream, just tell folks a little bit about who you are, where you're from, give us a little intro, all that good stuff.
I originally grew up mainly in Eagle, Colorado, Eagle and Gypsum area, and lived over there for a long time. And then I moved up to Craig, Colorado for a couple of years, chasing jobs and stuff. And finally, I decided to go back to outfitting. And I bought an outfitting business in Redstone, Colorado. Been doing that since 2016, and it's been good to me. I really enjoy it. Had to get back to outfitting. I was doing other tire work and stuff like that, and just wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. So I got into outfitting, and um, yeah, just like doing that. I used to go to Arizona in the wintertime to do horseback rides, but this year I'm going to stay in Colorado and hopefully get out and do some more winter recreation again. I haven't done that in like 6 or 7 years. So um, when all this wolf stuff kind of came about, I've been kind of fighting it since the ballot initiative came out, and me and another guy started a Facebook page. It was called Prop 114, questions and answers, or information, and we were just trying to get the information out. But I wasn't into it like I am now. We were kind of lazy about it, and once that passed, then it was kind of in a way too late for us to fight anymore to really end it. But I got on that Colorado Wolf Tracker page and really started getting after it, especially when you start learning that the wolves are going to be in your area. They're going to affect a lot of things. And when you start really researching it and seeing some of the stuff that, I call it the propaganda that the initiative put out there, um, Disneyland fairy tale stuff. And when you really get into it and you start seeing what wolves do, and learning about Yellowstone and how they're talk about the trophic cascade and everything like that, how it wasn't just wolves, but they try to make wolves as the cure all, and it's not. It's kind of like they tell us the wolf's a scapegoat for us, when it comes to ranching, outfitting, hunting, everything like that. The truth of the matter is the wolf's a scapegoat for a lot of things, whether it's you're pro wolf or anti wolf. That's just kind of the way that it
Hmm.
is. And I am actually one of the types of guys that hates getting labeled as an anti wolf guy. Um, I'm really not anti wolf. I'm just anti the situation in Colorado. And I mean, that's my biggest thing is I don't hate wolves. I'm not a shoot shovel shut up. I'm not a kill 'em all guy. I just want it to work out, and I wish we would have been more prepared. Not just for ranchers, outfitters, hunters, sportsmen, but I wish CPW would have had more time to prepare before they were forced to put these wolves down here, because we're there. Everything's just it's in a reactive situation versus a proactive situation.
Definitely seems like that. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that initial initiative to reintroduce wolves to Colorado, it barely passed. Is that correct? Am I recalling that correctly? It was very, very small margin, if I
Yeah,
remember.
it was within a couple percent, and mainly it's like every initiative in Colorado. The eastern slope with the higher population voted it in. It was like four counties on the western slope that voted in favor. My county, Picken County, was one of them, but you also got to look at it. You got Aspen, Colorado, in there, and Route County, I believe, voted for it, and they're also a big resort town, it's a tourist attraction. I can't remember the other two counties off the top of my head, but
I
basically,
think
if
it
you've
was
got a big
Eagle
ski
and San
resort,
Miguel.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. And if they have a resort, that's something that the second homeowners and stuff that don't live here full time, but they have the votes because they have their vote there. That
Hmm.
was one of the biggest things.
Steamboat,
Yeah.
Aspen, Vale, and Telluride.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy, man, and I've spent a little bit of time in Colorado, but not a whole lot. Mainly, I mean, just like everyone vacationing, I've hunted in there a little bit, but when I did hunt, it was in like northeastern Colorado, which is farmland up there, and Colorado kind of has at least in the big cities, and you guys know this, just more of a left-leaning mentality and everything there. And I was blown away by having conversations with these very right-leaning farmers and everybody out there, and was like, oh my word, man, this is so different than what you would think. It's just those densely populated areas that are swaying the votes. And I think we saw that a little bit too with when Proposition 127 was coming around. And I know that's not wolves specifically, but with mountain lions, and the CRWM and Dan Gates and all them that were trying to, basically match the media and propaganda push that the antis were putting out to try and ban mountain lion hunting. They were hitting those areas hard and everything. He came on the show back then and talked about that kind of stuff and the initiatives they were having. And I think that whole situation was proof that if you are if you're willing to listen, at least, you don't have to be a hunter, but if you're willing to listen, um, you can definitely be educated on the benefits of science-based hunting, science-based management, predators, and all that kind of stuff. So, anyway, I ramble on a little bit about that, but I was definitely encouraged by the results that we saw from 127. A little bit too late for wolves at the very beginning, at least. So.
Yeah, 127, Dan he put his life into it. And that was great. I mean, and that's what we should have done with the wolf initiative. But the problem was we all just thought there's no way. We just kind of
There
figured
was
there's no way this is going to happen. We don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, there was a huge amount of apathy. We're just like, nah, that can't happen. No way.
Yeah, just accepting it and moving on pretty much. Yeah, that's definitely been proven otherwise. So and so I want to dive in a little bit more specifically on the wolves and that kind of stuff because you are an outfitter. And what kind of impacts have you specifically seen for you or those that you immediately kind of work with?
In my area, they got released on the other side of the county over by Aspen, Snowmass. Um, as far as I know, every time I've talked to CPW, they have not been to my side confirmed yet. The thing is they don't really, as an outfitter, they don't really tell us if there's wolves in the area or not. Um, I wish they would, but they're not required to. It's more just the ranchers and stuff. And I actually work closely with all the ranchers in my permit area because I help range ride and take care of their cattle as well. So if they get notified about it, then I get notified. And we haven't had wolves on our side yet. I've heard rumors, and I hate doing the rumor mill thing, but I've some from some very great people that I know could tell a wolf track and could tell if they've seen a wolf. Avalanche Creek, where I'm at, that's one of my main hunting drainages. They found wolf tracks at the top of the drainage, but I mean that's 4 miles from Snowmass. So there was more reason to believe they're just going to come over that mountain into my side. I was just hoping that with all those 14ers and everything, that terrain and all that recreation, that they wouldn't. And I think that the terrain's too tough for them in that drainage. It's a long, narrow drainage. There's not a lot of place for them to get elk and deer cornered and chase them down, which is why they're, in my opinion, hanging around the low country and the ranches. But I've heard rumors of wolves over in my area, but I don't like sitting there calling my CPW guys every day and trying to get the info and getting that rumor from them because I know that the guys on the ground are tired of it. Are getting the phone calls and stuff. So I just try to stay once I have a confirmation, then I will, release that information. But the rumors, I've heard rumors of a bunch of uncollared wolves that CPW supposedly knows about. But like I said, it's a rumor, and until I get that from CPW, and my question is, if they say, "Oh, there's a rumor that we had 3 or 4 wolves in this area," if they're uncollared, how does CPW know that there's 3 to 4 wolves? And if there is 3 to 4 wolves, that needs to be, released so that they can at least say there's 3 to 4 more wolves in Pickens County or wherever, so that can go towards our population objectives. Because otherwise, this is going to be just like trying to count mountain lions. They want to get to their population objectives, but if they don't have collars on a ton of them, and they're just going by collar data and maybe flying over when those wolves are on private land and seeing there's a pack of 6. Otherwise, if there's packs without collars running around, they technically, unless they're flying over the entire area and counting them in one day, they're not going to know because wolves can move 20 miles in a day. I mean,
Mhm.
that one depredation in Pickens County where that wolf went from Pickens County and went over to the Crystal River Ranch and then back to Pickens County, and he had 3 depredations in 4 days. That's 15 air miles, and it's not super rough country. I mean, it's kind of to me, it's a rolling hill from Snowmass to Carbondale. Um, but I also heard like the day or two after the release, there was wolves already in Carbondale that left Snowmass right away. Um, they travel so far, and I understand they're traveling a lot right now when they're alone. But and once they pack up, it's going to be easier to know where they're at, and then we'll have the maps like they have in Idaho and everything, where this is the PAX area, this is that PAX area, and then if they have single wolves running around, that's one thing. But I really hope that they follow through with the plan of having 2 callers per pack through this. Well, through the entire thing, so that they can monitor them and stuff. But it comes down to how long are we going to be able to do that once if we have that many wolves, they're going to have to go out and retrap them, recollar them, stuff like that. And I just don't see it happening. And that's the way that they don't have to have accurate populations to delist them in Colorado or whatever they're going to do with CPW being able to manage them.
So what does, in your opinion, what does a reasonable long-term solution to this look like? And I appreciate when you said that, you don't want to lean into this anti-wolf persona. You're not anti-wolf yourself, but you want it to be addressed and managed properly and everything. Um, so what does that look like? Because definitely the way it all went down, a lot of people disagree with that personally. Even though I'm from Texas, I disagree with it. But they're there now. They're in Colorado now. So in your eyes, as somebody who has educated themselves on this moving forward, what do you think it looks like to be able to sustain this the right way, in the future?
My biggest thing right now is pausing it. Just pause releases. I mean, obviously we're having issues getting wolves now from other states, but putting a pause on it and getting prepared. I mean, we've got, we don't know how many pups they said they had. They said they had 4 breeding pairs this year. Um, they never released how many each pack might have had or anything. I mean, I never found that information in there, and that's where we want the transparency. I want CPW to be way more transparent of, hey, we got these, this breeding pair looks like they're denned up. They're going to have pups, and when they have their pups, oh look, they had 6. Okay, well there's 6 more wolves. We have no idea how many pups these wolves had. Um, from my knowledge, from what I've heard at the Copper Creek female that was released in Picken County, she ended up mating to another male because her breeding male died in CPW possession in September 24, and they said that I heard rumor that she had 6 pups again. So that's another 6 wolves. We're over with all those pups. If we had 4 breeding pairs that had 4 to 6, I mean, we're up there pretty high again. We're up to almost 60 wolves in the state, if that's even with all the ones that we've lost.
Hmm.
And without that information, we just don't know. And so if we pause this for one till we can get everything better prepared. I mean, it was just forced on us. Voted on in 2020, and they gave us 3 years to come up with the management plan, the working groups, all those shareholder groups, and everything came up with that 200 and something page wolf management plan. And now it's coming down to basically CPW has stated that they can follow that when they want to, and when they don't want to, they don't have to follow it. So we need to get a plan in place, solid plan. And the other thing too is we just were under resourced. They with all this, like I said, they're being reactive, not proactive, and we did not have the utensils and the stuff to make non-lethal work. You can go out there with a shotgun with rubber slugs. You cannot use rubber buckshot. It has to be rubber slugs. But the thing is, I don't know anybody yet that's been within shooting distance of a shotgun on a wolf to non-lethally deter it. The one guy that was in snowmats that shot at a wolf to as it was attacking his cows was at over 600 yards away.
Hmm.
Um, they had fladry set up. The problem was they had fladry down one side of their pasture, and what CPW did, from my understanding, was they decided where the wolves were most likely going to come from and put the fladry there. They also had fox lights out. Um, they were doing night patrol constantly. They were doing everything right except for the fladry was down one side of the pen. Well, I've watched deer get stuck on the highway and run down a fence line until they find a hole and then go through it. It's the same thing with cattle. If you build a 100-yard fence to keep them out off the side of the mountain, if they can get around it, they just go around it. Unless you have the entire corral fenced in, they're going to find a way out. And those ranchers that had those dropped right there, I mean, right in ranch country, nobody really knows which private landowner allowed the release, but it's there's tons of ranches right there. And unless those guys with their calves could have put fladry, because everybody, the pro wolf people, they talk about fladry and how it works so great constantly, but every one of them that I've talked to, like up in Idaho and stuff, with like sheep and stuff, they put it around the entire herd. They don't just put it down one side and say, well, hopefully the wolves don't come from the east. They
Hmm.
should come from the wolves, so we're going to put it on the west side. They surround their animals, like for their night penning. They surround the entire herd with the fladry, and it supposedly works um, for a time being. And with these sheep guys, when they move their sheep constantly, the wolves can't get used to it. They get used to the fladry, but now it's in a different spot. So as they move them, the wolves they're not sure about it. When you have it in the same spot for 30, 60, 90 days, I think they say it's on average in a stationary position, 60 days is what it's gonna last. Fox lights, those are just strobe lights that just kind of make it seem like somebody's walking around with a headlight or something. And there's this kind of the same thing. I know another guy, he does this stuff professionally. It's just his business. And he's even said that, you know, the Fox lights, he makes sound boxes, there's jokes going, I mean, not jokes, but literally they're talking about blasting Ozzy Osbourne at night, trying to keep these wolves away from their cattle and stuff. But it's the same thing. It's just like I tell people, it's just like my horses. If they're not used to gunshots, I go out there and I shoot guns around them till they're used to it, because I can't have a horse afraid of gunshots on the mountain. Eventually they get used to it. Well, if they get used to human talking, if they get used to gunshots, if they get used to all that stuff and there's no actual pain or anything associated with it, it's safe. You
Right.
got to look
Yeah.
at these other states. Up north, there's lethal harvest of wolves. And until these wolves are getting shot and they like to name them and stuff, till the wolf pack comes back after chasing some cows and they come back and go, well, Billy died last night. He didn't come back and we heard that gunshot and now we're out of pack member. That's There's nothing to scare the wolves. And they just get used to it, in my opinion. They talk about how smart these animals are and how great of hunters they are and how they adapt so well. Well, when they adapt that well, you have to figure it out. And we can't do anything about that to try and figure that out at all, because we can't lethally harvest. And even everybody, the ranchers are so scared to even shoot a wolf, even if it's depredating on their cattle. They're so afraid of what the repercussions are, because if they shoot a wolf and they don't have video evidence of what's going on, or maybe the calf, they couldn't find bite marks on it yet, they're going to federal court, and they're going to get ran through the ringer. And that's why I've told guys, like, hey, if you're going to do this, if you're going to be out there at night with your thermal optics and watch your cattle, you need to have, or even during the day, you need to have a video of somebody on the wolf and the cow or sheep. You need to have a video of people behind the shooter, and you need to have all of this with the wolf in the foreground, everything, so that when that gunshot happens, you see the bullet, you see the calf getting attacked, you see the wolf drop. If you don't have all that information, all that stuff, then you're going to federal court, and they're going to drag it out as long as you can until basically you're broke and you can't even operate anymore. And that's what scares a lot of people. Like a lot of ranchers, some of them don't even hunt. They don't really care about losing their hunting privileges. They're more worried about losing their ranches and
Right.
over a federal case that people say, well, do you want to go to get the $100,000 fine and everything over a $2,500 cow? And that's what scares them. It's the same thing. You'll get tied up in court and everything for months and months and months, when you could have just let him kill it. And that's what they're saying. Just let him kill it, and then get your uh, get your depredation payment and call it a day.
Have those depredation payments been happening? Because I've heard rumors on it took a while, but now they are, or I don't know. Again, I'm down here in Texas, so I'm trying to keep up.
From what I've heard, is some have been paid out, but a lot of them haven't.
Okay.
um, with hunting season going on the past few months, I've been kind of out of the following the wolves like I do when I was in Arizona last year. I mean, it was a daily thing for me. And but last I knew, there was still a lot of money out there that was not paid out yet. And I mean, the fund's drying up regardless. That's the problem, is the fund's getting dried up regardless. And they can't use revenue from hunting and fishing licenses. They have to do the wildlife cash fund or the Colorado general fund.
Hmm.
And I mean, honestly, the state's broke anyways. I think we're still like $1.7 billion in the hole. And wolves are costing us millions of dollars per year. And when you've got, I don't think they thought that the ranchers were going to have as much, paper trail as they do, with when it comes down to losses of not deaths, but weight losses and conception losses and everything like that. And when these ranchers came back and said, well, here's what I was out 2,500. I had 2,500 cows, and they all came in 25% underweight this year. And my year, from my 10-year average,
Right.
they were trying to pull, well, what about, drought and this and that. And they were trying to do everything they possibly could to not pay that amount of money, which whatever you put in, you can't just say, I want this much. You have to have your information. And I believe the wolf management plan says up to 75%. They can pay anywhere from 1 to 75% of that, depending on how good your records are and everything. And I think Farrell got just a little over 55% of what he applied for. And that's still, it was a little over $300,000, but he put in for like 675,000.
Oh, wow.
So, and that was off of that was just off of loss of weight from his cattle and his sheep that he had. And the other thing too is you cannot file for loss of anything like that unless you have had a depredation, confirmed depredation.
Okay. So, and again, I'm educating myself a little bit in the conversation with you, and I've been meaning to say it for a few times. I'm gonna throw it out there real quick because we are doing a live podcast this evening, and we have a few people listening in. If you guys have questions that you want either Josh or John to answer, please put them in the YouTube chat, and I'll be happy to throw them out here in the episode. But I wanted to back up a second to what you said earlier about the wolf management plan and how they can follow it if they want to, but they don't have to if they don't want to. Can you elaborate on that? Because that sounds, John's over here laughing. That sounds very 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 liberal in my opinion. That's like what's the point?
Well, and then yeah, I can't remember the exact situation, but basically, something happened and everybody was like, well, the wolf management plan says this. And they said, well, that it's a plan. It's not a, set in stone type of thing. It's just a plan. It's a guideline is basically how they worded it.
Okay.
And, that's one of the problems is when it's I understand it's a plan and it's not going to go to a T because this plan was made before we even had a 10J and before we had wolves. So now it's a completely different thing. So now they're going, well, I guess this isn't working how we planned it would. So now they're going, oh well, we'll use plan B, but we won't use plan B on every situation. We're going to use plan A until we need plan B, C, or D. And then with those situations, I mean, they left a lot of the stuff in the plan pretty open to be able to do that. It's a very thorough plan. I read it like 6 times. And some of the wording in there, you're just going, well, that doesn't make sense to me. But they had hundreds of people part of this as stakeholders and shareholders and everything like that. And it just kind of got, I mean, it's very thorough, but it's also got a lot of holes in it, in my opinion. I mean, we don't even have a population objective of when CPW can start officially doing a hunting season or whatever they're going to do.
Mm.
Just because, it's like there's 4 phases and phase 4 is wide open.
Wasn't that
Phase
sorry, carry on. Anyway, wasn't it in relation to re-releasing the Copper Creek pack?
Yeah,
It
that's
was
what it
this,
was.
it
Yep.
was essentially against the rules of releasing depredating wolves. And I think Jeff Davis said, well, we don't have enough wolves. We're just going to re-release the Copper Creek pack after they were captured in Grand County this year, whenever it was.
Um, yeah, they were re-released in December or
They were
January,
captured
January
in
of 25.
September of last year and re-released in January. And he said, yeah,
Yep.
basically it's not allowed in the plan to re-release depredating wolves, essentially. And he kind of just
Mm.
said, forget that.
Yeah, because they re-released
Interesting.
them when they released the British Columbia wolves and snowmass. So they released 15 wolves. My understanding was 10 wolves from British Columbia went to Snowmass, plus the 5 Copper Creek, the female, and the 4 pups. And then they released 5 like north of I-70 in Eagle County somewhere. So, and yeah, that was exactly it. Is they basically they I think people were complaining that they were in captivity. These are wild wolves and this and that. And so I don't think they really wanted it to get out. And they should have, they wanted to do it and then wait a year or something and hope that female wouldn't start breeding or something like that. And they kind of shot themselves in the foot. I think somebody slipped and then got put on Jeff Davis's, well, what's the deal? And I think even Jared Polis stood up and was like, well, we had to get these wolves back out there. We can't get enough. And, we're trying to establish packs. And this was essentially an established pack, even though the male did die.
And subsequently, one of those pups from that release was killed as depredation or
Yeah,
chronic depredation.
that one was killed in end of May. They shot one of the males, and the one of the other pups from that pack that they could not catch is believed to be the one that they shot in Rio, well, were trying to kill in Rio Blanco County, and because it was chronically depredating as well. And the blame went to it's a single wolf that has to kill what it can. But they said they shot it. One of the shooters shot it. They found blood. They found DNA. They confirmed it was that extra male from the Copper Creek that they could not catch. And then, they there's another depredation in Rio Blanco County, and they believe that wolf just moved south again and started going down towards Meeker and everything, and started depredating again.
Gotcha.
If it is alive, we still don't know where they hit it. They just said they found bone fragments and blood. I'm guessing, when I find bone fragments as an outfitter, it's typically a leg shot or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not usually, you don't really blow out a lot of bone like they're saying without hitting something in a low leg or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. We got a question in the YouTube chat. Could the specific GPS data be acquired through basically a Freedom of Information Act? Is that something that's obtainable through something like that you know of, or not sure?
There's been several people that have tried to get that information through a Cora request. Um, but per the plan, they do not have to release it. And their fear is if they do release that information, that people will go there and start waiting for wolves in that area,
Yeah.
shoot, shovel, shut up, smoke a pack, all that. So I think regardless, even with the core requests, they will not release that data. And their scapegoat is that map that went out today showing the drainages that the wolves were in or have been in for the past month. And I was actually trying to come up with a way that to make that map a little bit easier to understand instead of my drainage goes from Carbondale, Colorado, all the way up through Redstone and through Marble. And so when a wolf's in Carbondale, it shows that they're in Redstone, they're in Marble. And when I get hunting, clients calling me and they say, well, we see in the map and they're in your drainage. I'm like, well, no, they're way down, and it's every tributary too. So it's just not the main river. So it shows basically my tributary goes from Huntsman's Ridge and Redstone all the way up to Capitol Peak. It's 15 miles wide and then 30, like 25, 30 miles long. And if one wolf walks through there and the GPS dings at that point in time, they say there's been a wolf there.
Mm.
So I wanted to maybe do like they release a GPS data, one point for those for per wolf caller that's 30 days old on each map to give us an idea of where that wolf was pinged. And then we can kind of know where the wolves are at and know what's going on. But then again, I understand with all the shoot, shovel, shut up, all that stuff, that you're going to have people possibly sitting there waiting and hoping, oh, it was in this area. I'm just going to sit here for a week in the winter or whatever, or go snowmobiling and find them or whatever.
Yeah.
And, do that kind of stuff. So there's really no way that I know that we can get that information. And even if we do, I think they would just not even care about releasing it to anybody or give you 6-month-old GPS data where they know that wolf has maybe moved on to a different area and they know it's not there.
Yeah, that too, for sure. So, we had a while back, or let me ask this first before I go there. I've seen this stuff about how they're not taking wolves, or Canada and Alaska aren't sending wolves, whatever that might be. You want to speak to that a little bit, just as far as the wolves that are coming in, where they're allowed to come from now. And you even mentioned at the beginning that Colorado just in general is having trouble getting wolves anymore. So what are the factors that are influencing all of that right now?
So right now with our U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, they deem this a non-essential experimental population. And to me, that just says it all right there. We don't
Yeah.
need it. It's experimental.
It's
I
just
mean,
it's just happening. It doesn't even need to happen. It's just
yeah,
happening.
yeah. Like you guys voted on it, so we're going to make it non-essential and experimental. Like, we've done CPW's done studies since 1993 about bringing wolves back, and every time the CPW biologists just say no, it's not feasible, and that's what started this whole thing. But now, Brian Nesvik, I think is his last name, went from Wyoming to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and he sent a letter to Director Davis and Jared Polis that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife non-essential experimental population plan that they could get wolves from the northern Rocky Mountain states. And so that would be Washington, Oregon, northern Utah, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho. And I do not think that California is on there, which I hope it's not because they're having so many depredation issues over there. But since they got wolves from British Columbia, it was outside of the northern Rocky Mountain states, and that's how it's stated is northern Rocky Mountain states. So, and it also cuts out Alaska too. And Brian Nesvik said, no Alaska, no British Columbia, no Canada. So you got to go to these other states. Well, when we got them from Oregon, we got the wolves from Oregon, we got 10. And they basically told us like, hey, we can't give you any more. Like this was our population was at that point, I think they're at 190. We took 10, they're at 180. They're up to like 201 now, they're speculating. But they basically told us like, hey, we can't send you more. Our population isn't stable enough to do it. Um, Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho all basically said, we're not going to put this on you guys. We already know the repercussions and
Yeah.
we don't want it. We're not throwing our problem on you and you guys don't need to do this. It's kind of
Yeah.
stupid.
Been there,
So
done that
we
kind
won't
of
send you
deal. Yeah.
wolves. And Washington, 2 weeks ago, I listened to that well, not CPW, their meeting, and I mean they even stated our population can't do it. The one lady said, as much as I want to see wolves, from Mexico to Alaska and blah blah blah, that we can't send our wolves. Colorado's already having problems with their wolves that they can't even keep them alive. Where I mean we're almost at 50% death of what we've put out there, and so they voted 8-1, and part of their thing too was to keep this from coming back again. And CPW coming back in a couple months and asking again was they will not give us wolves until they are delisted. And everybody was kind of like, oh great, yeah, Trump just is trying to delist them, and they're not doing the management plan. But they threw in there delisted at a state level.
Mhm.
So now, even if wolves are completely delisted in the United States, Washington said until their state delists them, basically don't even come back. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's twice that Washington's denied wolves. They tried to get them from the Nez Perce reservation last year, and the Utes, Southern Utes, asked the Nez Perce tribe to not send wolves. So Washington is officially pretty much out of the run.
Yeah, I think basically right now it's up to Oregon if they want to again, but I don't believe that. I still don't think Washington or Idaho, Montana, or Wyoming are even going to attempt it. Or even give them an option. I think they know that too, that's why they haven't even tried. But I also heard today that they are trying to negotiate with Alaska again.
Hmm. Interesting. So I have another question just as far as the progression of this and where it's heading and everything. And you yourself, you've mentioned, Josh, that it needs to there needs to be a pause in it. And I have not followed up with him on this since I had him on the show. I feel like I'm this guy down here in Texas that's like just my brain's about to explode sometimes. I feel like because it's public lands and then it's the public lands rule and then it's the roadless rule or vice versa and then it's Ambler Road and we have like all this stuff constantly happening. I'll be honest, until this show, it's probably been a minute since I talked about wolves in Colorado, but I had John Stallone from How for Wildlife on, and he was talking about um, how they were looking at actually trying to use the ballot box against or in favor of science-based wildlife management instead of against it by using it to try and put an end to just the wolf reintroduction, just stop bringing them here. Do you think that that's feasible? As a Colorado resident, as somebody who's very in tune with this, is that something that would even be possible?
In all honesty, from what I've heard with this wolf fiasco is there's been a lot of people that have jumped sides, and not to the side that the pro side. They've jumped sides of basically like I've been told, man, I've seen your TikToks, I've been following you, and I voted for Wolves and I screwed up. Like they're. I think honestly, if we went back to this, it could work. Um, and I think we could win it, especially with the margin that we had, especially if we actually put money and advertising into like we did Prop 127.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I mean, the thing is, Colorado advocates for smart wolf policy. Attempted to collect signatures. I mean, I collected signatures for them, and they came up so short. But they were not even using the means that they should have. Colorado Wolf Tracker page has 13,000 people on it, and they wouldn't even, hey, we're going to have, you know, ballot, signature collectors in here and here and here and here. And they were not using their means. And I was hoping that what they were doing was not worrying about the Western Slope as much. They were worrying about the Eastern Slope. But the thing is, to collect your signatures, you need the Western Slope to get all your signatures. And the Eastern Slope is going to be because I mean, you only need 125,000 signatures. Western Slope should have been their focus to get the signatures to get it put on the ballot and, educate the people on the Eastern Slope and get them to sign too. But when you only need 125,000 signatures out of 6 million people, you need to go to your grassroots people on this side that are against it, the ranchers and everything. And, it was so hard to collect signatures. And I'm not the type of guy that was going to sit out in front of a city market, a grocery store, and wave my clipboard and get people to do it, because I would end up doing something like this and having somebody yell at me about how I'm anti-wolf, and I'd have been sitting there for a couple hours ripping on one person, or had to bring out my soapbox and stand up on it in a bullhorn to make sure
Yeah.
everybody heard me.
I think there's a lot of us that would probably be in that same boat. All good intentions until that one guy fires off, and then and then I'm
Yeah.
I'm honed in at that point. Probably be the same way. So another question from the YouTube chat, and this is kind of bits and pieces of this have been hit on a little bit, but this gentleman says he's got a three-part question. One, how many wolves has Colorado purchased? Two, how many of those wolves are currently dead? And three, how many of those dead were killed by hunters or anti-wolf people?
All right. So, uh, first off, we've gotten 25 wolves. 10 from Oregon, 15 from British Columbia. Out of those wolves, um, 11 are confirmed dead. There's been 12 deaths, but that was because one of the wolves was that Copper Creek pup. So I started calling him I think his collar number is 2405-CO. Otherwise, their number is 2303 OR, which would be a 23 female from Oregon.
Okay.
So out of those, there's been 11 that have died. So 11 out of 25 have died. As far as all the deaths, I actually got all the whole list right here. For legal hunting means 3 wolves have died in Wyoming. 3 of our wolves have traveled to Wyoming and been killed. And I believe one of those, though, was actually shot by the USDA for cardiac depredation on sheep.
Mm.
Um, there's only been one wolf that has been supposedly poached in Colorado, and that is actually that Copper Creek male that was captured, and then it died 2 days after capture. And they said it was very unhealthy and had a pre-existing bullet hole wound. They would not say, if it was days, months, weeks, or if it even had it when they captured it, and it just survived that long. So there's one wolf in Colorado that has been shot and died that CPW knows of due to caller data.
Gotcha. Very, very interesting. I got another one
Otherwise,
there.
we've
Go
had a
ahead.
few. We've had 2 die from mountain lions killing them. One was another wolf killing it. I guess the only other one that I would consider a weird case was in Northwest Colorado. One got caught in a legal coyote leg hold trap,
Wasn't that
and
southeast
from
down by Colorado Springs?
It might have been. I might have wrote
I
it
thought
down
that was
wrong.
El Paso County, and that's not on that list that we were talking about yesterday. It was that uncollared male, and wasn't it from the Great Lakes region, like Minnesota or something? They thought.
No, there's been one that there was a female that was caught in a leg hold and CPW confirmed it. They actually came and released it, said it was healthy to release.
Okay, I couldn't remember what that
And
other
that
one
would have
was.
been
The coyote one, the coyote trap wolf was.
yeah, this would have been a female, British Columbia female, collar 2512.
Got another question
But
in
Oh
here.
yeah,
I love these questions that are coming into the YouTube chat. It's pretty cool. See the audience engaging a little bit. But John, you probably know this person, and Eric Kessler.
yeah, that would be my dad. Hi, Dad.
Yeah, familiar name right there for you. Eric asks, "What is the state cost per wolf? Is there any statutory limit on its spending?"
um, no, I guess well, yes, there should be.
Yeah.
We were promised on the ballot initiative, we were promised $800,000 a year. That's what this was going to cost. Um, we surpassed that within the first 6 months.
Hmm.
Uh, so I
Wow.
know we're over $4.5 million. Um, heard rumors that we paid British Columbia $400,000 to get 15 wolves. That doesn't include all of the um, like all the money that was spent in um, for us to send personnel up there, for us to do the cages. I mean, the flights to bring them back was actually donated. They've been donated on both of them
Hmm.
for both introductions. The same companies donated their time to fly the wolves back and forth. But Tracy Ross with the Colorado Sun actually did a podcast with, I don't know if I can pull this up, Eric Odell and let's see here, Eric Odell and Brenna Cassidy with CPW, and there was 11 CPW personnel for 6 days in British Columbia, two helicopters. They had vets, ground personnel, 2 nights in a base camp before being transported to Colorado. Um, that just seems to me like personnel and I mean 11 people up there. I'm guessing they probably had 11 hotel rooms for 6 days, 7 days. I believe they sent people up there beforehand even to start the process and get with British Columbia and talk to them about how they planned on doing it and everything like that. So if we spent $400,000 to buy the wolves, which I don't think we were supposed to do anyways, so it's a rumor, but that's what I've heard. Um, I mean, you're telling me that would have had to cost a couple $100,000 just to get 15 wolves, and then once they get back to Colorado, you've got all the CTPW personnel to pick them up at the airport, do their vet checks again, drive them to the place in the middle of the night. They released all these wolves from British Columbia in the middle of the night. The first release they did during the day so that Jared Polis could have his public relations picture taken of him releasing a wolf and everything. But the other ones, now you're paying CPW personnel overtime to go out there in the middle of the night and release wolves in the dark so nobody would follow them and stuff like that. So I'm guessing that cost us. I'm guessing that alone was over $1 million. I know those chartered flights probably would have, if they didn't donate them, would have costed 20, $30,000. I mean, there's special planes with cargo holds and everything like that, and they went from Prince George, British Columbia, I think it is, and they flew all the way to the Eagle Airport. And when they flew into Eagle Airport, we actually had people waiting for them. My parents sat on the side of the road at the exit of the airport, waiting for them to come out to get pictures of them, just so we knew that okay, there's wolves, they're coming in. We weren't doing it as a. I've been blamed that we were doing it as trying to stop it or whatever. But all we wanted to know is CPW is not being transparent, so we wanted to know that hey, there's wolves, so wherever they go, we were kind of hoping. My thing was if I could figure out where they were going, call those ranchers if I knew where they were at and say, hey, by the way, wolves got released last night. So you might want to be on your cows right now, or hey, there's wolves on their way to you, whatever. Now you got to start your non-lethal techniques instead of being reactive. They could have been proactive and possibly shut
Hmm.
down the buffet before it happened. And yeah, we weren't trying to be nasty. I know that the ground personnel, the boots on the ground CPW personnel takes a lot of hits for this, and I stand up for them because they've been great. They're just doing their job. And a lot of these guys, people going, well, if they really don't believe in it, why don't they quit? Well, some of these guys are a couple years from retirement. You know,
Yeah.
I I'm kind of the same way. If I was a couple years from retirement, I don't want to lose my job and lose everything. So I'm just going to do my job, keep my mouth shut and just do that. And those guys have been doing everything they possibly can, but there was no transparency. And that's the
Hmm.
problem of, we John Michael with Colorado Wolf Tracker. I mean, he was on top of the flights tracks, and we knew they were coming in, and when they came in, we seen them go in with the crates, we seen them come out with the crates, and then my parents, okay, we're done, we're going home. We got some pictures of the crates coming out, we're all good. And then there was actually people messaging me. I was in Arizona, so I'm getting pictures from people of these wolf crates going down I-70 and stuff, and people trying to keep me updated of, hey, we don't know where they're going. And actually, all these crates ended up going to the Glenwood CPW office. And I mean, I had somebody sitting there basically all night. They were telling me, yeah, nobody's left, nobody. And then all of a sudden, people came in. From it, the gates were closed, and all of a sudden, people come in and all that. And it was really weird. And I think they nothing against them, but I think they gave us a double, and they sent out some decoys on us
Hmm.
and went to the CPW office. And then, everybody else was focused on that, and they waited an hour and then drove out and went and released them. That's what I kind of think they did.
Yeah. Pro probably probably smart on their part, I guess. I don't know. But so just from a Colorado standpoint, just in general, and you both are Colorado residents, if they are, and this is a question for me, if they are that that far over budget, if they blew the amount that they were supposed to spend on this in the first 6 months, and you spoke earlier at the beginning about how like just being a state as much in debt as you are, is there nobody that's thinking just at the state level that's thinking, hey, let's maybe we can shut down this experimental program over here to save some money? Is nobody making that push really?
There's some people trying, but they just don't have the backing.
Yeah.
There's so many people on the other side, especially when you bring animals into it. That's my biggest thing. You bring an animal into it, and yeah, it's the same thing as, oh, this guy abused his wife and gets a domestic violence. He spends the night in jail and all that. But you go and beat your dog out in the parking lot because it jumped out of your truck, and you're going to jail for months. When you bring an animal into it, it's a completely different mindset. And there's so many NGOs out there right now. I mean, with so much money, that I'm not saying they're paying politicians or anything like that. I'm saying that they can help. They should be helping fund this more, but they also have big lawyers and everything, and they're trying to keep this going just because they're going for this whole, let's get wolves from Mexico to Alaska again and all this. And it's getting really tough because we don't have the money. Non-resident hunters are already spending $850 on an elk tag. They don't have the money to spend, $500 a year to support Prop 127, or stuff like that, to put that money in to support us, because they're going to go broke too. And Colorado residents, we're trying, but I'm not a millionaire, and I wish I was. But a lot of the millionaires, just, if you're the right person to show up to their house and ask them for some money, they will. And when you've got places like Wild Earth Guardians on your side, that's billions of dollars that they've
Yeah.
tied up, big companies in multi-year lawsuits just to put them out of business, and then put them to the point where they're about broke, and then say, okay, well, we're going to drop charges and be done with this. But we did what we want to do. We basically put you out of business. And when you've got that kind of backing, and you can tug at people's heartstrings, that's the problem. And tugging at people's heartstrings is what's going on with this whole thing. I mean, it's an animal. I care for animals. Yeah, I'm a hunter, but I care for elk, deer, everything like that. And when I harvest one, I still feel bad about harvesting one, but it's to support myself and feed myself and my family. And it's not that I don't like animals, but yeah, I got a different eye of it and stuff like that. And you
Right,
can get
right.
all these people that don't understand what's going on. And you sell it as it's part of nature and this is how it's supposed to be. That's what they believe. They watch Bambi get shot, Bambi's mom get shot, and now they think that every time you shoot an animal that, you know, Bambi's gonna it's bad. So it's
Right,
it's a
yeah, that
tough
they have
deal
human
with.
emotions and all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing is they went out and the first wolves, the first 10 wolves they brought from Oregon, they had a naming contest in on the eastern slope that the kids in school were naming these wolves and stuff so that they could, you know, follow them and say, oh, Fluffy McFluff Wolf or whatever they did, um, he's still alive or stuff like that. And I haven't heard much about that lately because I think when those wolves die, they don't want to say Fluffy McFluff Wolf was killed by getting hit by a car, but they give them personal human traits like names and stuff like that. And
Right.
I mean, you see it all the time. People in Yellowstone that are constantly out there photographing the wolves, they name them. And that grizzly bear 399 that has those five cubs, every year and all that, and she finally died. I mean, people like bonded to this, and that's the things they're bonding to wolves and stuff. And when a rancher's losing their livelihood, it's, well, you got to take better care of your animals because we're taking care of the wolves and helping them out. And we saved like British Columbia. Well, they were going to go out and cull, you know, 35% of their population. So we saved these wolves from death. Well, you just put them into a worse situation. And to me, let me take you out of your house where you're comfortable and you're with your family, and I'm going to go dump you in the outback of Australia and say, well, now here's your new house and go find a new family and survive. I mean, that's essentially what we're doing to these wolves. And, 99% of the people that live in Denver and stuff, they wouldn't survive. But they think that wolves can just do it. And it's getting proven that they can't.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for them. And if they're alone, they can't survive alone. Everybody knows that they're pack animals. It's just like, you go out there and you see a cow with a calf, you shoot the calf's not going to survive if they're alone. If it's in a herd, the calf's probably got a high chance of surviving. But you leave that calf, or you shoot the calf and leave the cow, and she's alone. Now she's a single animal that has to fend for herself. So that's why people want to try to harvest animals without fawns or calves on their side and everything, because you don't want to leave one out there alone because it just gives them a death sentence.
Hmm. No, 100%. Uh, Question from the audience concerning those BC Wolves. Question is, did the BC Wolves have hydratid? I think that's how you say it. And isn't that against regulations bringing those wolves into Colorado? I don't know a lot about hydratid. I think that's some sort of disease, isn't it?
So hydatid disease is a
Hydratid. Okay.
tapeworm. That's what
I'm
it is.
putting an R in there. Whoops.
And it has been confirmed that Colorado wolves that are in the state. This has been confirmed by the Colorado Conservation Alliance that they have the hydatid disease. CPW said that they vaccinated and wormed these wolves, um, when they captured them, both British Columbia and Oregon. Um, the other thing though is, I worm and vaccinate my horses. I worm my dogs. If I get my dogs one wormer in January, I got to do it again 6 months later. It's not a
Right.
one type deal, um, unless they have something that you can't get over the counter that cures everything. But yeah, it's been confirmed. They've gotten scat samples, everything like that. Um, Hydatid has been in the state before, but not to the point of how it is. And if you go to Idaho and stuff like that. When I quarter my elk out, I don't get into the guts and lungs and everything like that. I don't check that stuff out, but they can actually get the elk and deer, the ungulates can get this, and they get cysts on their lungs and their liver and everything like that. And it actually, eventually kills them because they don't get the
Mm.
tapeworm, but they get that in their muscles and everything like that. And your dog can get it, and then your dog can pass it on to you. And wolves, it's the same thing. They get it, they go kill something, they spread it, and if they go 20 miles, that day and take a shit, they just spread that, and the parasites can actually live in the soil, live on the grass. Then a deer comes by and it's eating and it sniffs it up into its nose, and now it's got it. And the same thing, it's they're spreading a disease that we didn't want here and was relatively in control from, height wasn't even questioned in Colorado until wolves came in. And it's another thing that I was saying, hey, this is another thing that wolves are bringing in. And your baby can get it. If you're
Mm.
take your dog out to, let's say you're out on the hiking trail and he rolls in wolf poop and there's those parasites in there, and he goes home and you're sitting on the living room floor and he's rubbing his back on the ground and doing what dogs do, and then your baby's over there crawling right on that ground too. Or you know my little niece used to sit there and play with the dogs and bite their back and all that. Well, she can get it too, and now she's got
Yeah.
a tapeworm. And yeah, I mean, we're thing is with a tapeworm, nobody really ever knows they have one until they get like an MRI or something, and or they start losing weight, and then all of a sudden
Right.
it's okay, well, our whole family has this tapeworm.
Yeah. Crazy stuff for sure. John, what am I missing here? Any major points of conversation that we need to talk with Josh about while we got him on the show here? I know
No, I
I'm
think we've done.
trying to be mindful of our time and everything, but also I want to make sure we're not missing anything because this is Josh, I really appreciate the information. This is good stuff.
No, I think we've done really well, and the comments from the YouTube have been pretty good. Yeah, I don't think we missed anything critical.
Well, I'd like to talk about chronic wasting disease with the wolves, if we
Please
could.
do. Please do.
um, so there's another thing that the pro wolf people talk about is wolves will help cure chronic wasting disease. And you know since 1993, when we released wolves in Yellowstone, um, you know Wyoming, Idaho, Montana didn't really have much chronic wasting disease. That was more Colorado born. Um, and all of a sudden we get these wolves, and CWD is all of a sudden, Colorado's kind of the first state to do mandatory testing and stuff like that with their herds. Now all of a sudden these other states are doing it. And people go, well, wolves will kill the sick and weak. That's all they'll kill is the sick and weak and blah, all this. But they also spread it. Research has shown, and people say, oh, it's proven. Well, from the research I found from CSU, chronic wasting disease, when they did studies with coyotes on chronic wasting disease and getting the prions, that their stomach will kill like 95% of the prions. But if they don't kill that 5%, wolf kills a chronic wasting disease elk and runs 20 miles and takes a shit, that prion can live in the soil for years.
Mm.
So now why is if wolves will cure chronic wasting disease, why do all these northern states, why is there chronic wasting disease on the rise? More wolves, it's rising when it should be plateauing or coming down, but it just keeps rising. Well, my opinion is wolves are spreading it. They don't pick and choose. I've told people this several times on social medias. When you go to the grocery store and you're going to get a ribeye, you don't sit there and pick the first one that's sitting right there in the front that looks a little bit brown and not so good. If it's me, I go through them and find kind of the newest ones, the freshest, healthiest looking ones. And wolves are going to do the same thing. They're going to look for, they're not going to want to kill a sick animal. I've had people tell me on the Jackson feeding grounds that they've literally seen cow elk with broken legs that can hardly walk, and the wolves they won't go kill them. That should
Mm.
be an animal that a wolf should go right after, that can't hardly run and everything, but they won't. They'll go after the other healthier animals. And with chronic wasting disease, that's my biggest thing is if they're going to cure this and help us out, why is it rising in every other state that's wolves are in? They should be plateaued or dropping now. especially in the northern states that have had wolves for 20 years.
Hmm.
And I personally have only seen maybe one elk or deer that had chronic wasting disease that showed symptoms. I Unless it's mandatory for me to check my animals in and get them tested, I just don't worry about it. But I hardly ever see animals with it. It's just what CPW tells us that these units have it, and but northern states are getting really worried about it, and that's a big problem. And I kind of joke with people, well, maybe we should release more wolves and that'll cure it, right? Well, it's not working.
Yeah, might be a little propaganda there. So, yeah, that's interesting. I would not have thought to ask that honestly, but that's some good insight because I have heard that kind of circulating with all these wolves and everything is the benefit of that. And honestly, just again, me being not from Colorado, I've hadn't put a whole lot of thought into it, if I'm being honest with you. So
Well, and all
that's
the research does say that um, it is believed that wolves can help slow chronic wasting disease. Well, when I want scientific data, I don't want it is believed. It's kind of like if you've got cancer and you're going to get treatment. Well, we believe if we do this, it's going to work. I want more of a, here's your odds of it working, not we believe it'll help. And that's
right.
that's the thing is when people throw that research in there, the first line, two lines of it has basically said, after further research, it is believed that wolves could help slow the spread of chronic wasting disease or predators. But that's not scientific to me. That shows that they don't want to say, like, it basically just says that maybe 50% of the time it'll work every time, and that's
Yeah.
that's the way that it kind of sounds like. I want data like when we turned out 5 wolves into a 30,000 acre high fence elk unit with chronic wasting disease in 5 elk, and they went out and killed 5 elk, and chronic wasting disease was gone. Great. But when they say, well, it's they killed some of the elk with chronic wasting disease because they also say these wolves have a seventh sense that can early detect chronic wasting disease, which makes me laugh. And I'm going, well, what do they smell it or this is in the, this is the nervous system. What do they do? How do they have this seventh sense? And if they have this seventh sense, I'd like more people to go out there when a wolf kills a 6x6 bull elk in Yellowstone, go out there and test it. If it has chronic wasting disease and they say, well, 90% of the bulls they killed in Yellowstone over the winter had chronic wasting disease, then I'll be more of a believer. But they have no real life data that shows that this can slow it or will slow it. And when you talk about them spreading it, it's still the same thing. Well, when you can still, there's a 10% chance of you spreading stuff. It's kind of like COVID. Follow the science. Well, there's a 10% chance you're going to spread it with a mask on. Okay, well, there's still a 10% chance I can spread it, so I guess I should just stay home.
Yeah. Kind of falls under that same umbrella as the this being basically a big experiment and a wolf management quote unquote plan and what we talked about earlier as far as how
Have
that's
you ever
defined. So
have you ever listened to one of the CPW commission meetings, Sam?
I have not, no, not
Well, next time you
I've
get low
seen
blood
clips on
pressure,
I've seen clips and stuff, but I have not actually tuned
next
into a whole one.
yeah, next time you get low blood pressure and need to fix that, the three lines are it's voter mandated. So anytime like the petitions to delay wolf introduction or whatever, anytime anything wolf is on the commission's docket and there's public comment, the pro wolf, it's voter mandated via Prop 114. They're not wrong. Technically, it passed by a percentage. Number
Right.
two is they can cure chronic wasting disease every time. Someone says it. Where that data came from, who knows? And oh my gosh, I just forgot my third one. The trophic cascade. Like they're a benefit to the ecosystem. Every single time, it's those
Yeah.
three lines, and there's really no data to support any of it.
Yeah. It's all in it's all in just what fits the agenda at that moment in time.
Yeah,
I
it's just
was
their talking points.
I was gonna ask both of you guys just being Colorado residents, what your opinions are of your new CPW director or acting director. I just saw something about that yesterday. So,
Me and John talked a little bit about that. Yesterday I was actually when that news came through, it was crazy. And the thing is, I think Jeff Davis was brought in as a scapegoat regardless. And following the CPW commission and everything with Jared Polis over the past 6 years, he set this up to completely shut down CPW. They don't want it to be like it is. They want there's actually a new initiative
98.
98 that
Yep.
they want to basically shut down the CPW commission to make another citizens board that controls all this stuff. Because I think they have a fear that after Polis is out, if we get a Republican governor in here, he's going to clear house.
mhm.
And we need it bad. In all honesty, I understand having the people on our commission to make these laws and regulations. And this is a off wolf topic, but the CPW is getting blamed for all kinds of stuff, whether it's tag prices, wildlife laws, all this stuff. Well, it's actually the commission that makes CPW biologists and everything give their recommendation. They vote on it, they choose. They can even change it if they want to. And what's going on is they're they're bringing in these people that have no business being in here. And I understand you got to have your citizen people that have really no idea about wildlife, just so that you have that other spot. But our state parks representative has never been out, had never before she got put on the board out of a state wildlife or state park area outside the Denver area.
Mm.
And if you're going to be on that position, I would want somebody that's been to at least 50% of the state parks in Colorado and seen them and stuff like that. But we get these people that they're putting on here that are basically there to push an agenda. And I don't think they're getting paid to push an agenda, but I think um, that they're put on there to, in a way, it's like they've been trying to hurt CPW to the point that even hunters are pissed off at CPW and don't want to deal with CPW. So now this initiative 98 will pass, and then they can just dissolve CPW completely. And then what happens with no CPW and you've got a citizen board of random people that can basically shut down hunting if they wanted to. And this comes back to the rewilding Colorado push that they're trying to do, that let Colorado be wild, bring in the wolves. They'll manage ungulate populations. They'll do this, push the ranchers off the national forest and BLM lands, take their ranches, take their water, all this stuff. I think it's a huge thing that's becoming a huge problem. And that's their whole agenda is rewild Colorado to make it to where we don't hunt to control populations or anything. And they can just do whatever they want. And the wolves and mountain lions and bears will self-regulate and regulate all the populations and all this. It's yeah, this the whole thing's getting crazy.
Yeah,
The
I
last,
remember. Sorry, I was
sorry,
just
go
going to
ahead.
say that I'm glad you brought up Initiative 98 because I was going to ask about that too. Because John, you mentioned that to me last time you were on the show, so I'm glad you brought that up too. Sorry, I didn't mean
Um,
to cut you off.
no, you're good. Anyway, the last commission meeting, they just upgraded bison to both game animals and uh livestock in Colorado, which means that the
Really?
Book Cliffs herd, which is on the far west side of the state, uh, the ones that would cross into Colorado used to be able to just get shot by ranchers over there, and now, well, as of January 1st, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, they'll be protected, and there's actually a bison management plan.
Really? Hmm. Well, it'll be interesting to see how things progress in y'all's state for sure. I hate that there's always something, man, and Colorado is always right at the heart of it, it seems like, and
We're on the
it
bleeding
sucks
edge.
because yeah, y'all are y'all are the guinea pig for all of this. I don't even know what you want to call it, all the
Petri
garbage.
dish of rewilding hell.
Yeah, and I mean
Uh,
we still have people trying to fight this. The Colorado Conservation Alliance still has a lawsuit out there, and it's been out there since like October 24th, 24, October 23, and they're still waiting on a federal judge to even, do anything about
Oh,
it.
wow.
And they're the same ones that, found out about the hydatidic disease and everything like that. And they're trying to fight this. There's so many, all these stakeholders with the last CPW commission meeting that trying to do the pause again and everything like that. I mean, there was 28 associations on that, which, Colorado Outfitters Associations, tons of cattlemen's associations, ranchers, everything, trying to, just get a pause so we can, like I said, get to be proactive versus reactive. And there's it's not working. And they actually, at the last CPW meeting, uh, Commissioner Jacober brought it up, trying to get it pushed back through, and they basically like shut him down. Like, nope, we're not going to talk wolves.
They
There
canned
was
that
two
as
of them.
fast as they could.
Yep.
Wow.
And then you had Jessica Boyu bring up the fur sale ban in Colorado, and she was almost stomping her feet because everybody's like, okay, we're another public, petition thing. We're going to curb it till next meeting. And she was kind of stomping her feet of, I want it done now. I want to talk about it. And it's like Murphy Robinson was even saying, well, if we're going to hear this one, we need to hear the wolf one too, and and that's why they've taken out the wolf updates too on all those meetings. Is it got to be, I mean, I understand they're volunteers, they're doing what they want to, and it was hours and hours of public comment on wolves in the wolf update. But the thing is, the wolf is a hot topic regardless, and it's still a hot topic. And my opinion is they shut that off just so that they could quit talking about it and hope that the public comment would stop on the wolves. But the last commission meeting, I mean, like 90% of the people were actually anti-wolf or anti-situation on the wolves, asking for help, asking to pause it. And you still get the people that are pushing it. Yeah, they're dug in. And I've talked to these people, I've been to their meetings. You cannot, they're so dug in that you're going to have to cut both arms off and both legs and they're still going to be stuck there in the mud because they will not move. And it's getting, we need these updates. We need this information on the wolves. And, the Born to Be Wild license plate, I'm super glad that they're doing that. It's raised almost $1 million this year
It just crossed a
for,
million like a week ago.
Really?
yeah, yeah, just over 1 million per year. And that's supposed to go to non-lethal techniques for ranchers. But the thing is, this fladry that they get, it's expensive and it's on back order. There's only like one company that makes it. And I've actually tried to figure out how I could, you know, sit in my basement and try to figure out how to build this stuff and, give it to ranchers for cheap because I mean, honestly, all it is it's a piece of string, and you go, if you played flag football in elementary school, you go get a bunch of those little flag football things and hang them off it. That's what it is. Some of them do have electric flags on them, but the ones they're using is just a string with an 18-inch piece of red flag on it. And it's super simple, but when they don't have enough to supply to the ranchers, and now we're going to spread the next group of wolves down into southwestern Colorado, but you can't even take care of the ranchers in Grand and Jackson County that have been dealing with this for 3 years now. You can't provide them enough non-lethal. Now you got Picken County and all that needs these non-lethal, and Eagle County, Garfield County. Now you're going to go to Gunnison County, Montrose County, all those people down there, and you still don't have enough fladry and everything. This is another, we're behind the 8 ball right now, and we just keep stacking another 8 ball in front of us. Is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be proactive and just say, okay, let's shut this down for a year. Let's get this Born to Be Wild plate with a lot of money. Last year, 14 range riders, and it was a little over $400,000 they paid those range riders. And I don't know, I hadn't had a lot of information about how those range riders did. I actually applied to be one, and I wasn't picked. And some other people that I know that are very uh, cattle savvy, livestock savvy, and they're like me. I'm not going to go out there and shoot one for no reason. You couldn't even carry a gun, so that you had no chance of shooting a wolf even if you had to. You're basically there to observe, report, and deter was your
Yeah.
whole part of your job. And after it came down to it, I was kind of like, well, I'm glad I didn't get chosen because The paychecks were looking really good, except for the observe and report stuff. I mean, I felt like I was going to be Paul Blart Mall Cop or something out there for these wolves and all that. I mean, that's what it was. That's what it was coming down to is, you pull up to a wolf and pretend you have a gun, but we both know that you don't,
Yeah.
and try to deter the situation. And that's what it kind of seemed like. And Max, that's running that, he's actually a great guy. I think he's doing the best he can with what he's got. But even, all these guys, Adam Baca, he seems like he has done this quite a bit. But I think he would even agree that they're so undersourced with resources that they can't effectively be non-lethal. And when you've got the pro wolf crowd blaming these ranchers for not doing their part, well, if you got a wolf problem, just go buy Fladry. Well, here's the problem. I can't. I've tried to find it, and you get online to find it, and they won't even give you a price because it's on back order for so long. I can go buy Fox lights at $50 a pop for, it's one of those things. If you're protecting your stock, you're not going to want to go out there and buy some $10 flashlights from Walmart and put them on fence posts that they flash every once in a while. I mean, it's essentially the same thing, but it just doesn't work. And then also, if you said, well, this is what I did for my Fox lights, it's unless you have actual Fox lights, they're going to fight you when you have a depredation. And the pro wolf people will fight every depredation they possibly can and blame it on the rancher regardless. And when they're on the summer pastures, up here on the mountain, there's no way in my permit that I could actually effectively be a range rider and protect cattle, even if I'm sleeping on the mountain in a tent. And I just can't do it with 400 head of cows out there and stuff, and the drainages I'd have to cross and ride down an hour to the other trailhead to get up to the other where the wolves are. And I've talked to people in Idaho too. They go, "Oh yeah, we'll ride a basin and no wolves and everything. We'll go around the corner, come around to the next basin, and you hear wolves back there on the cattle.
Oh,
Where
wow.
we were just at. They're smart animals." And it's just really crazy that people think that this will effectively work. And then they say, well, just hire more range riders. Well, contrary to popular belief, most ranchers, that the ones I work for, are not millionaires.
Hmm.
They're mom and pop ranchers. They're generational ranchers. And the guys that have millions and millions of dollars with their cattle ranches typically have their cattle on their private ranches. Um, there's pro wolf people bringing these people down from Idaho, the Elzingas, which I think their operation's great and what they're doing works for them. But when I went to their meeting, it was so impractical for us to do in where I ride, and many of the other ranchers I've been to, night penning their cattle. Well, then when you find out that they're only night penning their 2-year-olds and they're not bringing pairs on the mountain, and they're riding all day long, pushing the cattle from spot to spot, and then bringing them back to the night pen. They're grazing them all day and then bringing them back. I don't see how you're gaining weight. Um, they bring in interns, and basically their pay is you get to learn this stuff and you get all the ground beef you can eat. And they also have a 3,500-acre ranch where they keep their summer pairs as well as do all their hay and everything. Well, through all the ranchers I know, we have to take cattle off of our summer pastures to make hay for the wintertime to survive. They don't have 3,500-acre ranchers. They've got, a couple hundred acres that they need every bit of that to make hay so that they can survive in the wintertime. But the thing is, these pro wolf people go to these meetings and they just completely eat it up because they don't know. And when the ranchers show up and they start asking questions, then it gets shut down. Oh well, okay, we're out of time. We can't answer that
Yeah.
question or stuff like that. And it's really tough because it's the same thing I understand on the wolf plan A, plan B, plan C. Well, every ranch is going to be different. That's understandable. And this will work here, this won't work there. And that's what our site assessments will say is, in this ranch, we believe that Fox lights will work, but Fladry won't. Or, range riders will work, but rate Fox lights won't. They have their, and as long as those ranchers are using what they're telling them, that's great if they have enough resources for them to do it. But typically, you won't get non-lethal deterrence until you have a depredation. So you literally just open up the buffet, let them come in and learn they can eat there. and now you gotta kick the guy out that paid for his all you can eat buffet before he's done eating all he can eat.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. So, like it's just like me. When I know there's a honey hole for elk, I don't the next year I don't say, okay, well, let's go try something new. I go back to my honey hole. And if that doesn't pan out, then I go to the next one. But if I go there every year and I'm getting an elk in the same spot every year, I'm going to keep going there every single year. And I'm going to keep
Right.
checking it every single year. Wolves are going to do the same exact thing. And honestly, I had so many ranchers this year tell me that they had elk, big populations of elk on their private ranches in August, September. And my belief is there was some people saying that the wolves will push these elk and everything off the private ranches so that it's better for the hunters. But these ranchers are out here protecting their cattle. The elk come down there to stay with the cattle. They can't push them off. I mean, they could try, but they just come back. And the wolves learn, or the elk learn, hey, if we go down here with the private ranchers and stay down here, they're going to be turning the wolves. We're safe. And even if the wolves do come down, they're going to go after that cow, that calf, that bovine before they come after me.
Hmm.
And it's giving them a safe spot. And that's another problem is now all these ranchers are losing feed and everything to elk because they're trying to protect their cattle and the elk feel safe. So it's a huge issue. And
Yeah.
that takes away
Wow.
from, public land outfitters and hunters like myself, because if the elk are just going to sit on private land and we can't hunt them, then what's the point? Now these ranchers are also losing money in hay and everything, which they can't. You know, they can get permits for to get a little bit of kickback, but it's not enough to cover the hay that the elk are destroying for their cattle.
Gonna be a huge issue here in Gunnison. Our elk and deer move down into the low country onto the ranches or near the ranches so much earlier than a lot of other places in the state. And it's just going to be this pile of cattle on top of elk, on top of wolves, literally right outside of town. I mean, there's a cattle ranch across the road from my neighborhood that elk come down to nearby every winter, and they're just going to pack onto it if there's any modicum of safety from wolves.
That's crazy. I never, that never crossed my mind, but I mean, it makes total sense, but I never thought of it at that level or for that, in that regard, I guess. Wow. That's crazy. Well, I know we're getting close on our time that we normally shoot for and everything. I want to pose this question to you, Josh, just kind of in conclusion and as we wrap up. Um, However you want to break it down as far as Colorado resident, the non-resident, or both, what does your average hunter in your mind need to be doing right now to pay attention to this, to, for lack of a better term, to get involved, or what is there to be done by just your normal everyday hunter in the state of Colorado?
If you plan on hunting, if you're non-resident, you plan on hunting Colorado in the next 10 years. Number one, follow CPW commission meetings, see what you're dealing with. Um, you know, you're going to get a big eye opener with one meeting. And like John said, you want your blood pressure raised now. Take your heart medication before you get on there, but start following those and see what we're fighting. The next thing is if you've got some money to spare, there's tons of associations out there that are trying to fight this and everything like that. Get involved, find out who they are. Because I mean, every dollar counts, and when it comes down to paying lawyers and stuff for this stuff, they're like this isn't like Wild Earth Guardians where they've got millions. A lot of these have started from scratch to try to fight this. They need help. They need pushes. Um, there and look at get on the CPW commission and find that that pause and look at the people that are on there and pick out places to donate to that are fighting this, because if we don't fight this, Colorado is going to go from the over the counter state, or the state that's the backdrop with all these elk, to no more hunting. And you're not going to be able to get your tags every year regardless. So it's going to turn into more like another one of those other states where you might be able to come out here and hunt every 5 years. And if we lose our non-residents because we've got lack of elk and everything, uh, wildlife won't be paid for. wildlife's paid for by non-residents in this state, regardless. Whatever every resident wants to say. When my tag, I bought, I don't know, 6 preference points on the. I bought it preference points for everything this year. 2 elk tags, a buck tag, 3 bear tags, and even with all that added up, I still did not even pay for one single elk tag for a non-resident.
Oh, wow.
And it's crazy because that amount of money that I put into the or amount of tags that I got and preference points I got did even cover $850. Um, so we need the non-residents regardless, and not just because I'm an outfitter. Um, that's where I make my money too. But the thing is, without non-residents, without elk, I'm out of business anyway. So we need to fight this by supporting the ones that are fighting it, sending emails to the commissioners before the meetings, look at the agendas, see what's on there, because it's not just wolves. There's a lot of stuff coming down the pipe every month that hinders us regardless. I mean, tag prices for non-residents go up like 10% a year. When you're paying 850 for an elk tag and you've got, on archery, like statewide, it's an average 10 to 15% success rate. Um, it's great that we're making the money, bringing people in, but we're going to lose people, and with less elk, we're going to lose even more people. And eventually, if we just can't support the CPW, we're just going to lose everything, and that hurts every non-resident hunter that wants to come out here or does come out here every year. I mean, I got clients that come out every single year and spend thousands and thousands of dollars. So we need to get involved regardless, whether it's the fur ban, trapping bans, mountain lion hunting bans, whatever they want to try to throw at us. Not at the state level, but at the Parks and Wildlife level, because every year, every month, there's something coming down the pipe that's makes you question what this state's coming to,
Yeah,
regardless.
absolutely. No, and it's what happens in Colorado too, like both the good and the bad, other places are watching, and it's only a matter of time, in my opinion. Even if there's somebody tuning in, I mean, I'll call you out a little bit. You're naive enough to think that it doesn't affect you. Like it could only be a matter of time before your state's taking a page out of Colorado's book with something, and it's knocking on your door. So I think everybody needs to be paying attention and getting involved for sure. So
Well, that's the huge thing with this wolf thing is once one state gets something like this on the ballot, it's setting a precedence. 127 saved us. It gave us it does work every time, but yeah, your state could be next on ballot, public ballot initiatives to shut down hunting. I mean, for some reason, my Facebook feed right now is so full of, the vegan thing of don't hunt animals, don't kill animals. I don't know why. I think I clicked on one post to comment something, and now it's just full of. It's
the
like every other
algorithm
post
got
is
you.
it got me bad, and I'm getting so. But now I started commenting more because I'm making jokes and stuff. But once there's once it gets to that point, Wyoming can do the same thing regardless, and Montana, and they can start doing the same thing of ballot
Yeah,
initiatives to, let's stop wolf hunting completely. And the ballot initiative could say Montana doesn't have wolf hunting until there's 5,000 wolves. And if it passes, it's just like we're dealing with. It's a state mandate. So they need to really get involved in every state and every other state going, well, look at what Colorado screwed up with. Yeah, look at what we screwed up with and what we didn't fight for, because you need to fight for it if it comes down your pipe and you go, well, they'll never ban wolf hunting in Montana. Well, you got to fight it regardless to keep our livelihoods and our hobbies and everything like that.
yeah, I agree. John, anything else from you?
No, that's why I got Josh on the podcast. He pretty much cleaned house with everything we needed.
They freaking hit a home run out of the park. It was good stuff. I'm gonna throw one more audience question at y'all. This is kind of just a lighthearted, fun one that I want to make sure I get into. Uh, this gentleman asked if Josh and John had one season to take off and go hunting together as a pair, what season and what species would they agree to hunt together? So,
That's a tough
Well,
one.
that's rough.
yeah, th this person probably gave us the toughest question of the night right there at the end. So,
Oh man.
Honestly, I'm a first rifle guy for elk. That would be my
That
favorite
yeah,
season to go.
I would yeah. First, second rifle right in there somewhere. That'd be ideal.
Hit that little bit of the back end of the rut for us, and first rifle for us is we kind of got that back end of the rut, and it's fun to chase elk with a bow and get in close, but I'm a spot and stock guy, so being able to have the rifle just in case that big 7x7 walks out at 500 yards, I can make the shot.
Yeah,
um, Otherwise, I mean, archery's also fun, but I kind of got out of archery a couple years ago.
gotcha. Josh, you got a bucket list hunt? You got a hunt that would be once in a lifetime if you ever got to do it?
I've had tons of clients bring that up, ask me that same question, and honestly, I think an Alaskan horseback moose hunt would be kind of
Oh,
my one of my top ones.
that would be pretty killer for sure. I've only done one horseback adventure and it kicked my butt as a Texas boy. I was in Idaho for elk, but man, I learned a lot and I would do it again. I totally would do it again. It was a blast. So it's good stuff. Well, Josh, tell our audience where they can find you real quick on social media or anything. I know you it seems like you stay pretty up to date with your TikTok and everything, posting videos about some of this stuff. So tell folks where they can follow
Yeah,
along.
yeah. For my TikTok's my main thing that I do for the wolf stuff. It's just at J Wamboldt. Um, that's my that's my main one for this wolf stuff that I try to post stuff on constantly. And otherwise, I post to my personal Facebook too. But the TikTok is definitely where I get most of my information out for the wolf stuff that I'm doing.
Perfect. Well, for our listeners, guys, make sure that you go follow along with Josh and everything that he's got going on. Stay in tune, stay up to date with everything that is happening in Colorado. We will do the same. And Josh, hopefully it won't be the only time you're on the show. We'll have to have you back on sometime, dive into it again, talk about some more of it.
Oh, I'm
Whenever
sure.
the next round of problems come along. So
Give me a
Yep,
year.
give me 6 months, and I bet you we'll have a whole new slew of problems.
that seems to be the trend for sure. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate your time this evening. Appreciate you joining us. Enjoy the conversation. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yep, thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Always. John, thank you, sir. Appreciate you joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Glad to contribute my little bit.
Happy to have you, man. For our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Those of you that joined live, thank you all for joining us live. And the audience that interacted, I always appreciate it. And with that, I'll be back with you guys again next time for another Fall Obsession podcast. Catch you then.